Hello and welcome back to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. Today we'll be looking at the second generation Honda Prelude. Welcome back, and if you are into car brochures, please do subscribe. I'm sure there'll be something here for you. Bit of admin, a bit of what's going on with Quartzlight we'll start with. A lot of new subscribers, so I thank you all for subscribing. Also a lot of comments and a lot of people commenting on their own personal experiences of the car brochures I go through, and I must admit they're my favourite ones to read. I always enjoy reading people's personal stories of a car from their past. Another thing, a lot of people are asking for or requesting car brochures, or which car brochures they'd like me to review. I thank you for all them. I can't promise that I'll do them all, but one thing I do promise, I write every single one of them down in this little book, and you never know, I may actually get to a point where I do actually review some of those as well. But obviously, as the channel gets bigger, it gets harder and harder to review everyone's brochure requests. But keep doing it. Like I said, I write every single one of them down. Another point, and I hear you, yes, I'm talking to you, Bill. A lot of old brochures we've been doing, possibly brochures you don't remember because they're such old cars. So answering yourself, we're doing a Honda Prelude brochure today, a little bit more up to date. This is a 1986 brochure for the Honda Prelude Generation 2. I suppose we should also say I hope you had a lovely Christmas as well. This particular video will be released on Boxing Day, always one of my favourite days as a kid. That's when you start eating all the leftovers and playing with your toys. So I hope you're having a lovely day. So the Honda Prelude, first released in 1982 as a second generation, like I say. The first generation was a whole new design. The second generation was a clean sheet as well, the whole new designed Prelude, 82. I think it was November 82 when it actually came out in Japan, as Misty says hello. Hi Misty. And in the spring of 83, that's when it would have been released in Asia and Europe, and of course in the UK. It was the first Prelude to have those pop-up headlights, if you remember. Anyway, let's look at today's brochure. It's from 1986. So here we go, today's brochure. You can see it's got a few little creases and a little bit marks, but overall not too bad once we open it up. And like I say, the first generation to have those nice little pop-up headlights. Also, I'm saying this is an 86 brochure, 86. There was a 2-litre engine, a 1958cc 16 valve fuel injected engine. That didn't arrive till Europe and the UK till 86, which would have been when this brochure came out, hence why this is showing 2-litre fuel injected coupe at the bottom. That's when that engine came out. And also when that engine came out, they had to sort of modify the hood or bonnet slightly to fit that engine in. The Prelude was always famous, like a lot of Hondas, for having a very low bonnet line with this nice sort of like greenhouse area. So it was quite an airy cabin, but a very low aerodynamic hood. Talking about aerodynamics, really helped it having those pop-up headlights. That really helped the aerodynamics for the Prelude. Well, it did in the daytime. Once you pop them up at night, it really affected the drag. So I guess that's always the problem with pop-up headlights, I suppose. But at least with them down, you could show your buyers what a great coefficient it had. But anyway, let's open the brochure up and see what else we can see. Lovely side view of this particular Prelude in white. I always think white really suited the Prelude, of course, white being the Japanese racing colour. And I don't know why, it just seemed really nice in white. I guess it was with those sort of like black accents, it really looked good, but obviously that's just a personal note, of course. I always think the strange thing with the Prelude, particularly with this being an 86 brochure, the Prelude, the second generation Prelude, was far more popular in the UK than the first generation. It did get a lot of sales and it was very a popular car which I think is strange because in contrast with sort of like Vauxhall, Opel and Ford, who had kind of like ended the Capri and they ended the Manta, and then this was still going strong as this two-door coupe. I suppose the difference was it was front-wheel drive rather than a rear-wheel drive design, and also you could argue Honda had that reputation for being a very reliable car and extremely good build quality. It was a light car, so you know it was quite nimble, and in fact it was the first Prelude to be quite a nimble car. But like I say, it still had that really good build quality. So it was that nice balance, you know, as good a build quality as a German manufactured car, but without the weight. It was still a nice light vehicle. Maybe that's what helped the sales. But like I say, you know, the Capri had ended by this stage, you know, 86, that was the last year for the Capri, and this was still going strong. I guess the still popularity with the Japanese cars like the Supra and of course the Celica at this time. I'm waffling again. I need to talk about the brochure. There is a little bit of writing on here. It's a very wordy brochure, so I won't read it all, but let's have a quick look. Prelude to exhilaration. Honda have a new flagship, the Prelude 2-litre injection 16-valve. There can be no doubt that the new Prelude will continue to follow those classic sporting traditions laid down by its stablemate, the Prelude Executive. The new car is an alternative to the existing model for discerning drivers who demand even higher standards of motoring excellence. The new Prelude 2-litre injection 16-valve will not disappoint them. One glance should be enough to tell you that the driving the new Prelude will be an experience to be savoured and enjoyed. The overall style and design of the low, sleek body does much more than hint at exhilaration that lies in store. A discreet bulge on the bonnet is now necessary to accommodate the 16-valve fuel-injected 2-litre engine. The tyres are wider, the front spoiler deeper, the promise stronger. A true sports coupe, the new Prelude sets higher standards in terms of performance, luxury and refinement. So then we get to the next page, lots of nice little images of this Prelude in white, and we'll have a close look at all these pictures of course and features. It was a very well equipped car actually. This particular page entitled Prelude to Performance, we'll have a quick look at some of the text there before moving on. To performance, this is talking about there is no compromise with the new Prelude. Its aerodynamic body is an integral part of the car's total design. It is built to perform as well as the engine, suspension or any other component that combines to give a new Prelude its outstanding abilities. High-speed stability and reduced wind drag are promised by the deep front air dam and rear spoiler, both of which are colour keyed to match the paintwork and so blend into one sensuous shape. It goes on to say the distinctive aluminium alloy wheels and wide low profile tyres are part of a special suspension system that endows the new Prelude with phenomenal levels of grip. Then talk about some of the equipment levels on there, which we'll have a look at later. And I've just noticed at the end it does mention, it says, and when the weather is not so pleasant, the Prelude has a rear screen wash wipe system to give an excellent visibility at all times, and the rear combination light cluster has been made much larger, an important safety feature on foggy winter nights. So yes, it does indeed have that rear wiper, although I don't see any of the pictures actually sadly showing that. So for you wiper nerds, it does have two wipers, but one at the front, one at the back. With this larger picture of the Prelude, a good look at those pop-up headlights in the down position. The wipers really well covered. Well, I say wipers, there is one wiper on the front there for those who are interested with wipers. And I do believe this model of Prelude also had one rear wiper, which is unusual, isn't it, for this coupe style of car, but why not? But like I say, it doesn't really show that rear wiper. on there. Very nice alloy wheels, lots of detail on those alloy wheels, and although overall I think they are a good looking car, something a little bit different. I think that's why they sold so well, along with of course that sort of Honda reliability, and also the fact that it was a very well equipped car, and it will have a sunroof on here as well, which we'll look at. And then we get that nice front shot, a rear shot sort of showing that nice spoiler, the all important spoiler on the back, and you can see that sort of like prelude in the lighting, which I think is a very nice little 80s touch there. Overall I think they're a very well thought of vehicle. And then of course you've got the electric sunroof, the rear light combination, which shows how that 2-litre injection 16 badge would appear, and power windows. Like I say, a well equipped car for the 80s. Then we get this nice page which says Prelude to Control, showing the interior views of the Prelude. Very well equipped, but also typical Honda in its looks. We've got this sort of like shelf on there, kind of like reminds me of Rovers, and of course Rover Honda had that relationship in the 80s. So there's little touches that remind me of both Honda and Rover within it. Then we get to Prelude to Luxury. Lovely, lovely seats, aren't they? Well, certainly in my view, a very nice, attractive seat. We've also got this drop-down rear seat, and we'll have a look at that. Not a great deal of room in those rear seats. Kind of like the nature of the beast of these coupes. Not much leg room, but very practical nevertheless, because you could drop that rear seat and have that sort of like extended area from this very long, narrow boot, which is certainly a nice feature for two of you going on holiday. And there is another picture of that nice driver's seat with adjustable lumbar support and that sporty gear lever. Very nice indeed. The text here, it's saying Prelude to Luxury. The new Prelude has precisely the sort of interior you'd expect to find in a true sports coupe. Smart, yet refined, luxurious, yet outstandingly practical. And like we've said before, a very practical car, and also a very extremely well equipped car. It goes on, but however luxurious or sporty the new Prelude might be, it still remains extremely practical, with a rear seat belts that fold forward to extend an already generous boot. This page, with the engines, etc., and this is also showing Formula One racing cars here, because Honda race team, I guess they kind of wanted to link those together, although really there isn't much of a link. But if you're winning races, you may as well put that in your car brochures, I guess. And we'll have a quick look at some of these little pictures. So first of all, we get a little picture of this fuel injected engine, an actual picture of it, before we also get a little diagram of it as well. I'm not sure why they wanted to show that twice, but there we go. And also we get these nice little pictures of cross floor cylinder head and 4 valves per cylinder. Race bred technology, it says. And on the opposite page, it's showing the exhaust system, 4 into 2 into 1 into 2, it says, and a little picture of that 5-speed gearbox. And then finally it shows this 18-bit digital computer, very 80s that, isn't it, and the sequential fuel injection. We turn the page and we get a similar sort of story of these little pictures, so we'll have a look at these as well. So it starts off with this little interior picture, without for a sort of closer look at those nice alloy wheels. It's showing at the business end of the Honda's unique suspension system are lightweight alloy wheels, and it's saying the tyres are 195/60 R14s. And then if we move this over, it starts showing the suspension system, so a double wishbone suspension. It's a nice little diagram on there. And this McPherson struts at the rear. And then more tiny little pictures. If I can, probably have to move the camera out a little bit to see this one. It's saying 4-wheel ALB. What's ALB, I hear you say? Well, Honda, instead of writing ABS, used to like writing ALB for some reason, anti-locking brakes. And in some ways it makes more sense, doesn't it? I don't know why that didn't catch on, but rather than ABS, Honda used the term ALB. And here is a nice little diagram. And we also get a nice little diagram of the disc brakes all round. And you can see how they've wrote it there, 4-wheel anti-lock brake system. And then we get this nice little diagram of this, how it's protected the car with this sort of electronic zinc coated steel, and they did actually last quite well. I seem to remember these Hondas, so maybe there's some truth in this anti-corrosion protection. And here it's showing this chipping primer coating as well. And like I say, they did last reasonably well, I seem to remember. I'm sure there's a few Gen 2 Preludes still driving around in the UK. And then we finally get to the specifications and major equipment pages. So let's have a look at those. So here we go, specifications. So that 2 litre 16 valve. So it's a water-cooled 4-stroke 16 valve inline 4-cylinder transverse engine. So it's 1958cc. So this was the big engine in the second generation Prelude. And we've got all the usual things: rack and pinion seats, pinion steering, etc, etc, and your servo assisted disc brakes on all 4 wheels. Front discs were actually ventilated, rears were not. So nothing too out of the ordinary. Obviously a 12 volt system. Those wheel sizing again. Fuel consumption. So what has he got here? So at a constant 56 miles per hour, we're getting 38.2, which isn't too bad really, is it, for a 2 litre engine? And then over the page we get general major equipment specifications. So power steering, tilt adjustable steering, 4-wheel anti-lock brakes, 4-wheel disc brakes, headlight washer wiper. Maybe you can explain this. Why has it got on here headlight washer wiper on here? Because these are pop-up lights, aren't they? So I presume they don't have a wiper or washer, and indeed there is no dot on here to saying they've got a wash wipe on the headlight. Maybe that's something for some expert or someone who's had one of these before to tell me. I'm assuming they didn't have a wash wiper on the headlamp, but I'm not sure why it's even listed on here. And it doesn't say it has because there's no dots, but it's the only thing on here that doesn't have a dot on it. And there's more specifications: mud flaps, rear spoiler, electric sunroof, retractable headlamps, alloy wheels, etc, etc. And it mentions that semi-concealed windscreen wiper, which it certainly did have. Interior, your leather covered steering wheel, etc, etc. Power windows, instruments, a lot of instrumentation on there, as you can see. Did have a power aerial, a very sort of Honda thing. It was on the driver's side roof. That was a very Honda sort of thing, and indeed that transferred over to things like the Triumph Acclaim and certain Rovers as well. And then the electrical system, headlight on reminder, rear fog lights, etc. And it shows that rear window wiper washer, doesn't it, there, and the rear window demister. And then finally on your back page, your Honda logo, and this is where your dealer stamp would have been. So there we go, the Honda Prelude, a great car. And if you do have any memories of a Prelude from the past, please do jot it down in the comments. Always nice to read through those, and I'm sure there are a lot of Preludes still on the road today. They were a well-built car after all. So quarter lights over the Christmas holidays, it's still going to be the same. We're not going to have any breaks. It's on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, so hope to catch you then. Please do subscribe if you want to catch each episode, and like and comment as you wish. But nice to have you here. Thank you for watching the video, and we'll see you soon. Take care and goodbye.